Hello, Shiver and scrappers and recyclers and investors. Man, it is great to be back with you all, live streaming our first live stream from the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina. How is everybody doing? Hope you're all doing great. And give me a quick sound check and video check. Want to make sure that everything is running the way it's supposed to in our new setup. Man, I tell you what, it has been an interesting move getting settled in up here, trying to find a shark cage, all the stuff that goes along with getting into our new home. But the good news is we are all moved into our new home. The bad news is we're still working on trying to figure out the shark cage. But there's going to be a video come out on Monday, and it's going to give you all the latest and greatest on what's happening with the shark cage, where we stand, and my first pickup from one of my primary clients up here. So that is going to be a lot of fun. All right, well, it is time to just dive right in. So once again, give me a thumbs up or let me know here if you're hearing everything okay, and we are good to go on our video and our audio. So, as is our tradition, we are going to dive in with what's going on with gold. So we get right over here to our precious metal gold, and we're looking at the 24-hour chart here, and we can see that, wasn't doing much till it dropped and then kind of flattened out again. But hey, this is only 24 hours, so not anything to get too terribly wrapped up in unless you're a day trader, right? So, but if we go and look at the 3-day, we see that, again, the chart was relatively flat for the first part of the 3-day period. We had a bunch of stuff going on here. When it finally dropped, came back up and flattened out, plateaued again around the 2,500-ish area where we're at right now. So, what's going on here? Hey, look, we all know that the gold is one of those really interesting metals because it is used a lot as an investment tool. So it's not an industrial metal. It doesn't react to base economics the way copper and aluminum and those kind of things do. So what's going on here is we have investor sentiment being reflected in the lowering price of gold. But hey, look, overall, we've been doing really well with gold. Here's the month, and you can see a nice upward trend. Here's the 3-month, climbing up year to date. By the way, year to date, that just means from the 1st of January, right? So nice upward trend. So for a full year, going back 365 days, climbing, and 5-year, look at, we're at all-time highs here in the 5-year range. And the same with going back to the mid 90s, we are nice and high compared to back to the mid 90s. So our prices are looking really good for gold. Now, what's going to be happening here with gold as we move into the future? That's a big deal for us, right? Because that drives our board prices. And that's one of the things that we are most concerned about is the board prices. So what I think we should look at and expect is we're probably going to hang out here in that 2,500-ish range. We're going to see some volatility here as the markets try to adjust what's going on. But we can expect a lot of volatility. Let's face it, we're getting into election cycle. It seems like in America, we're never out of the election cycle, but we're in these last few months of the election here in the US. That's going to have the markets going up and down and up and down. We've got world tensions kind of a little bit maybe easing, but not really. So again, there you've got a lot of volatility that's going to play in here. So it's going to keep the prices elevated, but volatile. So, what's that say to us? Well, I think if you've got boards, if you've got material that you can sell, you should go ahead and sell it. I wouldn't be hanging on to it. I wouldn't be, stacking it up. I'd go ahead and get it sold. Prices are really good right now. Board prices are looking really good right now. So there just isn't a whole lot of reason to hang on to your gold and trying, thinking that you're going to get some sort of fantastic gain out of the gold. What do you all think? What's your plan? What are you doing with your boards and, your inventory of boards and material that you are going to sell? Very, very curious what everybody's got on their mind for what they're going to do. Hey, what do you think about the new setup here? This is my office. So we've got the bookshelf and we've got some plaques and things from the back. In the back there, got our Naval Academy stuff going. Got Build a Goat up here, looking over everything. We got our big shark up there, looking over everything. What do you all think about this new arrangement? So let's see. What are we doing with our? Look at all the names that are in here. I tell you what, I am so stoked to have everybody jumping in here. We've got Scrapping Irish and Roger at CU Scrapping, and That's Right Recycling, and Scrapping on the Fly. Ron Shoot. I saw David Feely, Right Way Recycling. Let's see, who else did I see that popped in here? Where was it? Scorpion Metals is back in with us again. That's awesome. Nacho stuff. Nacho, love your videos, man. I mean, great stuff going on with you. You crack me up with your videos, I got to tell you. And Roger if you haven't seen Roger's, CU Scrapping, if you haven't seen Roger's latest video on his new digs, check that one out. He's got some good stuff going on his new place that he's going to be moving into. And Roger, I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain with moving into a new place. It's just not much fun. So David Feely's saying holding boards for now. You're holding, okay. So you're thinking that we're going to see some improvement and prices are going up, I guess. So that's cool. Ron says, going into the shred, no one near me buys them. Oh, man, that is such a shame, Ron. Oh, man, that breaks my heart. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? And I'm not one of these people that's going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that, because everybody's got to do what works right for them. But, oh, God, I feel your pain having to do that. That must just break your heart. And let's see, Roger saying he found a lot of backstack while moving, going to sell ASAP. Okay, very cool. All right. Let's see, what do we got? We just jumped. Oh, I'm not used to that happening. Very interesting. I haven't had that happen in my live streams before, but it's like the stream just jumped. So that's very cool. Got to get used to that. We've got somebody in here from Germany. Welcome. Great to have you here. Blar. I'm not quite sure how you say that name, but welcome from Germany. That is very awesome. Let's see. I'm looking for what folks are doing with Oh, and here we are from Poland. It's great to be back, Christian. Thank you. Awesome to be back. I'm having a great time being back. Let's see. Scorpion says he has been moving the whole house around for a few months, a little at a time, making more of a business. Okay, very cool. Yeah, no, I hear you. You got to get set up right for business, and that's a lot of work. And if you're living in the same place at the same time, it makes it even a bit more challenging. So I get that. Oh man! All right, we're gonna let that one be. Oh man, this is even funnier. Vlaar says he doesn't know how to pronounce his name either. Oh man, that's a crack up. Oh man. And then I tell you what, so it's interesting because we're up here in the mountains, right? So it's been cooling off really quick. Like today, let's see, today was we started out in the low 50s this morning. Can you believe that? The low was like 51, 52 degrees. Now we're up to 73. It warmed up real quick when the sun came up. I am loving this. I am absolutely loving it. Throw on a sweatshirt, long sleeve shirts, all those clothes that I just wore maybe 3 days out of the year in Florida. Just awesome. We've already got trees that are starting to do a little bit of change. So I'm really looking forward to having a real autumn with colorful leaves and everything. So wife and I are really loving being up here in the mountains. Just gorgeous. All right, so on to the next item of the day, which is our safety note. And as you all know, that I historically like to, take things that occurred during the course of the week and use that to inform what my safety note or my safety comment is going to be to share with everyone. And the thing that struck home to me the most this last week was because I went to a couple of businesses for make my one of the businesses is a client that I've been negotiating with for a while now. So it's getting to that yard and going looking around at what they had and picking out what to buy first and those kind of things. And it really reminded me of how important it is that you pay attention when you're at a scrapyard. When you go to a scrapyard for the first time, you're probably already paying attention because as humans, it's our nature in an unusual or a new setting for our senses to be more active and alert. So here I am, I'm at this new yard, I'm looking around quite a bit more, my head's on a swivel, I'm paying attention to where the big trucks are moving, where the forklift's going, where the clients, the consumer folks are, because they're actually some of the most dangerous people in the scrapyard, right? Folks like us that are coming in to drop off their truckload of scrap metal or something, and they're probably not paying attention, or they've been coming there so much that they're on autopilot as they're coming in the yard, get on the scale, go over to dump it. So when you get to a new place, you really want to be paying attention because you're not familiar with where everything is, what the trip hazards are, what the usual flow of traffic is. Hey, Anfield, great to see you, man. Great to have you here. Andrew Powell, welcome. Andrew's coming from the other direction across the Pacific in New Zealand. So great to have you here, Andrew. I know it's an early morning for you out there. And Anfield is coming out from the other pond, the smaller pond over in the United Kingdom. So that's very cool. Great to have everybody here from around the world. All right, so getting back to our safety discussion and scrapyards. So it probably, when you go to a new scrapyard or, the first couple of times, you're automatically going to be paying more attention just because it's our nature to do that. Where things get more dangerous is, hey, Everyday Solars, welcome. Great to see you. Everyday Solars is also coming in from the United Kingdom, so great to have you here. Uh, where things get really dangerous is when you are going to the same scrapyard over and over and over and over again. And why is that? Because now we get complacent. We know that scrapyard, we know the flow of traffic, we know what we're looking for, where we got to go to get on the scale. And then after we're done on the scale, where we're going to go to drop off the material. And so we're kind of almost a little bit in autopilot, and it causes us to not pay as close attention as we should. And that's when accidents happen. So when you go to your scrapyard, even if it's the 500th time you've gone to that scrapyard, I would recommend that before you pull into the lot, that you do something to just change. Maybe it's blink your eyes, or give yourself a little tap or something that says, okay, I got to pay attention. It's time to pay attention. I'm at the scrapyard now. There's big trucks, there's cranes, there's grapples, there's other people. So time to pay attention and be alert. Get your head on a swivel and just watch what's going on. This used to be a big deal aboard Navy ships, whether it was on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier or just the helo deck. We would go through great pains to continue to reinforce to our sailors, pay attention, get your head on a swivel. Don't take anything for granted. Don't be complacent. As soon as you get your mind off the zone and stop paying attention, that's when something bad is going to happen. So you got to really, really, really do that, because otherwise you can get hurt, or you can hurt someone else, damage your vehicle. There's a lot of stuff that can go bad when you're at the scrapyard. So, great recommendation right there from That's Right Recycling. Turn off the radio, put your windows down. If you've got earbuds in, take your earbuds out so that you can hear what's going on. Most times, the yard employees are trained to beep their horn when they're getting ready to coming up to an intersection of the yard. Most yard equipment will automatically have a backup noise or beeper of some sort that you want to be paying attention for. When you hear that, look around and see if it's something that's near you that's moving. You definitely, it's just all those kind of things that you can do to be more alert and more careful when you're at that yard. And don't get complacent just because you get out of where the cranes are moving around and you're over where they pay you, because who else is over there where you get paid? All the other chuckleheads like us who are over there getting paid. And, a lot of times they're busy looking at their receipt, or, grousing because they're like, oh, what do you mean you gave me something, low grade for that, that kind of stuff. So you really want to pay attention there too. Just really, really important. Now, the other thing to think about too when you are at the scrapyard is make sure you're paying attention to your PPE. At least have closed-toed shoes on. How many times when I was in Florida, I would see people at the yard in their flip-flops. In Hawaii, they're called slippas. But, they're sandals, they're flip-flops. It's like, really? Really? I mean, I saw a guy damn near take off his toes because he dropped a huge chunk of metal on his feet, and he only had on was flip-flops. So you gotta, wear at least closed-toed shoes. If you have steel-toed boots or safety boots, have those on, because there's some bad stuff there, and you don't want to risk losing your toes or breaking something, because it's just nasty. All right, you could hurt yourself bad. Have your gloves available, because, well, if you're unloading your stuff, you want to have your gloves on when you're unloading your stuff, right? You don't want to get cut up on your own scrap. You probably don't need to worry about safety goggles, although I have had to put on goggles when it was really, really windy, just because the wind was blowing so fierce. I didn't want to get junk in my eyes. Most yards do not require the peddlers, the consumers that are dropping material off, to wear a hard hat. But if you're doing business with that yard and you're back inside of the areas where they're storing materials and stuff, you might need to have a hard hat on. Just check with the yard manager. You learn what the rules are. Never had to wear a hard hat when I was dropping material off unless I chose to for my own safety. But I have had to wear a hard hat when I was back where most people don't go to, and we were doing a special pickup or load from back there. Here's a real good point from Truck Fan. Reflective vests are very useful. If not a reflective vest, then a bright t-shirt, a yellow t-shirt, an orange, one of those lime green colored things. Something bright so that you stand a better chance of being seen. So yes, a very good recommendation there. Yeah, I agree. Scrapping on the fly, Crocs, right? It's like, holy cow, really? First of all, they're just uglier than sin. But that's just, again, you're just going to get your feet filthy dirty, or you're going to cut your feet up, or worse. So yeah, it's tough. Now I'm not saying that you go overboard crazy on this, but think about it. A scrapyard can be a pretty risky place. So pay attention, do some basic kind of stuff to take care of yourself, and be safe when you're at the yard. The last thing we want is for any of you to get hurt going to the scrapyard. Now, it's not so much a safety thing, kind of a safety thing, but not really a safety thing, but be nice to the folks that are there. When you go there a lot, you get to know the people that are at the yard. The previous yard that I was going to down in Florida, those guys all knew me. They would say, "Hey, Sharky, what's going on?" The guys in the cranes would beep their horns, wave at me, that kind of stuff. It just really pays dividends to be nice to the folks that are there. I was even known to bring donuts and baked goods from Mrs. Shark to the scrapyard. Keeping those folks polite, being polite, being nice, keeping them on your side is definitely worth it. Now, look, I get it. Sometimes some of these scrapyard workers can be royal pain in the butts themselves. Maybe they're just having a bad day. If they're new, that can be kind of rough, right? And look, some of them are just jerks themselves, right? You'll get to know who the good folks are, who the idiots are, who the bad, the folks that you don't want to mess with. You'll get to know these people when you go there regularly. Hopefully, the manager and the supers, the yard tenants, those folks are good folks that you get to know and that they're nice and you can work with them. There were my yards in Florida. The managers wanted me to let them know how their people were doing. So I could send them a text or an email afterwards and just let them know, hey, the new guy that you got on the steel pile, he's doing a great job. He's paying attention. He's asking questions. Or, because I've had this too, hey, the new guy on the steel pile, I didn't see him the whole time I was there. He waved at me when I came in, but he never came over to check my load. He never came over to make sure I was putting stuff in the right place. The same thing at what they used to call the buyback area, where they would separate boards and stuff. So definitely make sure that you know who the manager is, get to know the manager if you can, have a good relationship with them. That'll pay dividends in the long run as well. Scorpion is asking if anyone else blew out a flip-flop. Well, you shouldn't be wearing your flip-flops to the yard. So, don't do that. Truck Fan says his redemption spots. I've come to know one of the employees there always report any bloopers that have been observed to her, and usually, okay, yeah, that's cool. When you get to know the folks, that's a good thing. Very, very good thing. Scrapping Irish. You know what? Sometimes you get stitches just because you're there, right? and Ian Matthews can get end up in stitches just walking into his shed. So, and, but look, let's be on a serious note for what Irish is saying. We're not being tattletales. When I had such a relationship with the managers at these previous yards that I was helping them out to, help them be more efficient, help them run their yards better. It wasn't snitching. It was just giving some feedback so they could train their employees better if they needed to. There's always one, I tell you. So, let's see, what else about scrapyards? Anything else? We've had a really good discussion on the scrapyards and the safety and the concerns around the scrapyards. Don't drive too fast through the scrapyards. Boy, howdy, I've seen that happen a lot. People get in there, especially, this is classic, right? The truck pulls up and they've got, I know what it is. They got ACR that they haven't, depending upon your yard now, they might have a refrigerator or an ACR, and they don't have the paperwork to drop off the refrigerator or the ACR, or they don't have the certificate that says that the refrigerant was properly drained. Now, again, this depends on your scrapyard. This is going to be the same everywhere. But, the yard then said, the poor guy or gal that's at the shred pile says, no, we can't take that. We don't have paperwork on that. And now the person gets really angry. And next thing you know, they're, trying to burn rubber and skidding out of the yard really fast, taking that turn really fast. I've seen some idiots do that so that they ended up dumping their load, spilling their trailer, just ridiculous because they were mad, right? So look, even if you get angry or you get upset, just slow down, take it easy, it's not worth it. So yeah, watch your speed, be careful, and you don't want to hurt anybody when you're there. Let's see. Roger, see you scrapping. Agree, Shark. The yard I'm working at, I'm seeing their procedures, and there are way more efficient ways to do things. And I plan to have a meeting with. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, see, Roger's in a great place right now, great situation, because he's working part-time at this yard. And so he's able to see these things and talk with the yard manager and make some recommendations and stuff. And Roger's been doing this long enough, and they know him well enough that, the manager will probably listen to what he's saying and may or may not make changes, but it's definitely good feedback. And Roger's the kind of guy that is going to be able to give them feedback that will be worthwhile to them and help them do a better job of running the yard. So that's awesome. That's outstanding. Let's see. Hey, Homer's also saying that just checked in. I work at a scrapyard. Luckily, we're all chill and in the area that doesn't enforce. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's another cool thing, right? Oh man. Hey, truck fan, I don't know about aluminum cans here yet. I know that the one of the big yards here in town takes them because I've seen huge piles of aluminum cans, but I haven't taken any in here, so don't know. Back when I was down in Florida, they had you had to dump the aluminum cans out onto the receiving tray. They would bring an empty barrel. You would dump them into the barrel. They would watch you dump them into the barrel. That way, the guy or gal that was going to weigh the stuff could make sure that there wasn't, shall we say, accidentally heavy pieces of scrap metal in with the aluminum cans. Not that anybody would ever do something like that on purpose, mind you, but sometimes scrap metal lead would end up inside a bag of aluminum cans. So that's all. That was the only issue there. But again, no big deal. I don't know what the procedure is here at this new place. I haven't taken any cans into them yet. That's right, mountain sharks. You've heard of land sharks. Well, now we have mountain sharks. So mountain sharks got to work on that one. I'm gonna we're mountain sharks. Air is thinner up here. Oh, let's see. Yeah. Aliens in the aluminum. Oopsie. Well, and another well-meaning mistake that some people will make is they will think that the aluminum trays that they used for cooking, the disposable aluminum trays, that they'll say, oh well, it's basically the same thing. We put that in there, but no, that kind of stuff doesn't go in there. Balled up aluminum foil, doesn't go in there. Your yard may have a different place where they would buy that from you, but that doesn't belong in the aluminum cans either. So that's what's going on there. So, hey, that's right, recycling. We're doing good, man. How high up are you? I don't know. I'm gonna have to check my elevation. To be quite honest with you, I don't know how high we are. We are not way up in the mountains, but we're up a bit. We're up from the valley levels for sure. So let's see, scrapyard. Oh, I saw another comment earlier. I don't remember who put it in there. Pay attention to the signs. Yeah, absolutely. Pay attention to the signs at your scrapyard, because sometimes they will change things up on you. That was a big deal in the one yard I was going to in Florida, because they had two scales. And so the usual process was you come in on this one scale, you would drive in on that, and then you would go do your drop-offs, and you would go out on the other scale. It made for a smoother flow. But when they were calibrating one of the scales, or if one of the scales was down for maintenance, they would put up these signs to redirect the traffic flow. And of course, it would always catch the people that were regulars off guard. So, that would be a confusing mess. So you definitely want to pay attention to those signs. Even and especially if it's a yard that you go to all the time, because they may have had to change the routing for something. So you definitely want to watch for those signs. Absolutely. All right. So yeah, I think that's about it for, for scrapyard safety. Certainly, if you have any other comments, feel free to drop them if you want to there. But I think we've covered just about everything. Very cool discussion, man. That was awesome. Awesome discussion there. All right. Well, it is time to move on to our next fun subject of the day, and that is copper. Copper's got to be one of our, second favorite metals next to gold? Copper, I mean, we all, we just love copper. So what's going on with copper? Well, all right, this is from Trading Economics. Those of you that have been on my live, that were with me when I was doing my live streams before, that I shifted over to Trading Economics for the copper charts. They give us a real nice kind of summary up here. And by the way, I am not sponsored by Trading Economics or AppMex for that matter. They're just good places with good information. I encourage everybody to check them out. You can see here a real nice summary of what's going on with copper. We're going to talk a bit more, though. I've done a bit more research on copper and the forecast for copper. But this probably doesn't surprise anybody. Here we've got copper's dropped down a bit here recently. And, U.S. manufacturing was a little bit softer. So that kind of dampened demand. China hasn't been as strong as anybody was expecting. So, that's been weighing on copper. As we've seen also in this last year, EVs and renewables have they have been strong. Don't get me wrong, EVs, electric vehicles, and the renewable industry have really been consuming a lot of copper, and those markets are still going on. but they're not as strong as some analysts were expecting. So a little bit of softening in the copper markets going on, and we can see that here in this chart going back, for the year. If we take a look at the 5-year, we can see where we are relative to the 5-year. We've dropped down to where things were back in 2001. We can see that we had some nice activity up here through 2022, excuse me. Then it dropped back down. We've had a lot of volatility in the copper market. Here's the recent spiking in copper that we've been having. And I have to note that I'm really disappointed. I mean, this is typical, right? Copper starts climbing. I decide to go ahead and move. So I haven't been moving any copper. I get back in the game again and copper is dropping. Is that just not, that's just wrong. That's just not right. All right. Well, anyway, so that's the 5-year look at copper. If we look all the way back through the, this goes back to 1988. We've got good, strong prices for copper up right now. So we're pretty happy with what copper's doing. But let's take a look at the 1 week, and we see the copper is dropping. I like to do, that's one of the reasons that I like this particular site, because I can do what's called a candlestick chart. And then we can blow up this near-term look at copper. Now, I'm not going to try to teach you how to interpret candlesticks on stocks and the stock market flows. There's plenty of places where you can learn all about candlesticks and how to interpret them. But suffice it to say, when you see these red candlesticks like this, that tells you that the prices are going to be dropping, and they're going to keep dropping, and they're going to keep dropping. So this was pretty clear in here that copper was going down here. And now we're down here. Let's open this up a bit more. So now what happens is you don't see a whole lot of differences in these prices. If you look at, the big fat part is the open and close, right? So it closed below the open. There was the high, there's the low, but you can see that it's closing down. And then here it's green because it started down here but closed up here. So what you're seeing in here is that their markets aren't sure what's going on right now. We're getting into a volatile, a situation of they're kind of stable. Which way are they going to go? But they are still trending for the most part down. So what that suggests to us is copper is probably going to continue to go down some. So don't be surprised if your yard is either holding steady with their current copper prices, or they might even go down a little bit. Would not be at all surprised if we start to see a little bit of drop in the copper prices, just because we've had this pretty significant drop going on here. The yards we've just gone back to the 1 month look here, by the way, and you can see that the prices are pretty low here. So your yards are adjusting for this. And remember, your yard, when they sell, for them to sell the copper, they have to accumulate a lot more than you do. And then they sell it, they may not get paid right away. It might be a month or 2 months, 3 months down the road before they end up getting paid. So there's a lot of forecasting that they're doing or they may have established contracts already. And so their contracts may have set the rate that they're going to get paid well in advance. So there's a lot that goes into what your yard is paying you versus what we see going on in the spot market. So, just understand that with your yard. Plus, every yard has to adjust their pricing for their logistics costs. The yards up here in the mountains of Western North Carolina, they're spending a bit more money to move that truckload of copper than, say, the yard in Jacksonville, Florida, that, might have only had to send it, not even 4 hours away to a mill. So, there's a lot of things that play into what your yard can offer you. So that's just don't get too upset about those prices. But also right now, bottom line is, don't be surprised if those copper prices go down a little bit. So what's going on with your yards? What is happening with the prices at your yards? And I got to be honest with you, I have no idea what's happening with the prices at my yard because, well, I haven't taken any copper in yet. And I don't know how much I'm going to be getting back into things like the copper game, because my plan here in Western North Carolina is to be almost completely focused on electronic scrap. I'm not planning on a whole lot of the other materials that we used to get when we were down in Florida. And I can tell you right now, right up front, there isn't going to be any more street scrapping. We're not doing that up here. There are, so first of all, in some places up here, it's not allowed. But in other places, it's just too dang dangerous. I mean, some of these roads are really tight. And so there's no place to pull off to the side of the road to even throw the material in. The other big thing is that the way they handle the trash around here, they don't have those scheduled bulk pickups like we used to have where I lived down in Florida. So, there's really no opportunity where homeowners are putting big bulk scrap out on the side of the road. So that really is one of the big reasons why I'm not going to be doing any street scrapping around here. So we're really going to be focused on the electronic scrap. That's the plan moving forward. And there'll be more details in my video that's coming out on Monday. Yes, Shark Scrappers posting videos again. And the first video is going to be coming out Monday. So be looking for that video on Monday, where I'm going to talk about what is happening with the shark cage, where we are on processing what we're doing, and our first big pickup for this area. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so let's see. We were talking about copper, and Patrick Williams says his Bear Bright is €7 per kilo. And Patrick, you have to excuse me, but man, I'm not going to do the math. I really ought to. I should have that right off the top of my head, but I don't. So I suck. What can I say? Sorry, man. Let's see. Copper. Anybody else got some copper stories going on? We've got some shred from Homer. He's down to 4 cents. Yeah. Shred. We'll take a look at shred at some point in the future. That's going to be one of those things that I will be dealing with, because when I take apart a computer, I'm going to end up with a lot of shred and aluminum, and there'll be some copper. So, insulated copper wire, I'm still going to be interested in doing that from businesses that I'll be picking up from. So we'll probably still be doing the wire stripping and stuff like that. All righty. So that was our industrial metal discussion. So let us now get on to, and the timing of me going live again was really fortunate for our latest edition of the Value Line Survey. This is where I get all the data that I use to talk about the stocks of companies that are somehow involved in, or, something around our scrapping, recycling kind of industry. Now, it's been a little while, so let me do a quick reminder, but we can do that while we're on the screen. We have two. Hey, Ralph, welcome, man. We have two stocks that we're going to talk about today. They are both listed in the Value Line Investment Survey under the steel industry, but they are both very, very heavily involved in recycling. And you have probably seen their name here in the US, maybe even internationally. So Commercial Metals, their ticker is CMC. Their current yield is 1.3%, and these numbers are effective as of 30 August. Their current valid price, well, at least on the 30th of August, was $53.97 per share. Now, they are not qualified for my investment strategy. So what does that mean? For those of you that are new, or because it's been a while and maybe you've forgotten, what I do is I look back through the last 17 years of cash flow per share, earnings per share, and dividends per share. And I want at least one of these three to be increasing every year of that period, every year. Now, I will allow a flat year, and for cash flow and earnings, even a negative year. For dividends, it's got to be all positive years, a flat or a positive, but no negatives to still be qualified. So Commercial Metals, CMC, they are not qualified at all, period. End of story. They're just not there. And you can see they've had a lot of years when their cash flow was negative, when their earnings per share was negative. They don't really pay much for a dividend, and they didn't pay a dividend for a while, but when they did, it was locked in at 48 cents a share for a long time, and it just recently went down. So for those of you that are thinking that the steel industry or the recycling people, they're making gobs of money, this tells a little bit different story, right? I mean, how are you in the recycling business these days, and your cash flow per share has actually gone down, or your earnings per share has actually gone down? If your earnings per share goes down, that means that your cost, what it's costing you to do your business, maybe there's something going on there. Now, of course, the Value Line Investment Survey is really good because they give me a discussion that goes along with these numbers. So the other thing is that they don't take any advertising. So because they don't take any advertising, this is all just straight, unbiased. Here's the numbers, here's the math, and here's our assessment of what it means. So basically what they're saying is that CMC is likely to post decent results for the fiscal fourth quarter. The results of the European steel group were much worse, so that plays on why their pricing is kind of The emerging products is CMC's newest segment, and it's just getting to work. This segment was created around the recent acquisitions and includes companies that specialize in products used with rebar at ground level in pouring foundations. Oh, that's kind of cool. Rebar. All right. And that was because they bought some companies, I guess, that are making rebar. So that's very cool. Current board chairman and the former CEO, Barbara Smith, retired in August. And so we've got someone new coming in. So that may be contributing to what's going on with them. Not a very useful discussion, is it? But that's okay, because we're not going to buy any of their stock anyway, because we don't like what those numbers look like. Well, I'm not buying any of their stock. I don't know if you guys plan to, but I'm not going to. So the other big name that most of us have seen around, you may remember them as Schnitzer at one point in their life. They are now known as Radius Recycling. Radius Recycling, they got a nice dividend there, 5.1%. Again, that's also effective 30 August, and their share price isn't bad at 14.62. But just like CMC, they are not qualified for anything, for cash flow, for earnings, or for dividends. Now, at least they haven't gone down with their dividends here. They've been at 0.75 for quite a long time. So, they got that going for them. But hey, they're not qualified for the way that I would look at a company that I'm going to invest in. Let's see, does the discussion of Radius Recycling offer us anything of interest? Radius Recycling reported a discouraging performance amidst a difficult market condition in the third quarter of fiscal 24. Yeah, okay. However, the economic environment marked by tight scrap supply due to lower manufacturing activity. Okay, blah, blah. This is some good news. Radius Recycling is strategically positioned to benefit from long-term trends, decarbonization, and demand for low-carbon technologies, along with substantiability impetus of metal recycling. Should produce long-term tailwind. Tailwind, when you hear these kind of discussions talk about tailwind, that means it'll help the stock. It should improve their numbers. So, there's some possibilities for some improvement with Radius Recycling. Now, again, I'm not suggesting that you should go out and buy this stock. In fact, if you do any stock investing at all, you want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and maybe even talking with some people that specialize in the stock market. For me, I have a system that I use before I make a decision to invest, and neither one of these companies would be included. So why did I talk about them? Because they're in recycling. Yeah. All right, so I promised that we would talk more about the long term for copper. So let's do a quick bounce back to copper. And oops, this one. Now, we are looking at the 1 month. Let's go look at 25 year. That's probably enough history for us to get a good feeling for what we're going to talk about here with copper. Now, I looked at a number of different sources. I've missed a lot of people coming in. Boats and Ed Weber, great to have you all here. I'm sure I missed some other folks coming in. Jill, E-Waste Jill, great to have you here. I get so busy going through these things and looking at my numbers and the math and everything that sometimes I don't see folks coming in. So I do apologize for that. So long-term prospects for copper. And this is important for us because we've got to decide, are we going to sell that copper? Are we going to hold that copper? What are we going to do with the copper? But these are some really long-term kind of perspectives here to think about. Because I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and because I want you to be able to go see the same information that I am, I will tell you that this next discussion, I got a lot of this information from Bloomberg. So they are saying that copper that mined copper, the copper that is coming out of the ground, the virgin copper, that should start to strengthen or come back in 2025. There have been a number of mines that were started a few years back it takes a long time to get these big commercial mines up and running, producing properly. Plus, there have been some challenges in the countries that these mines are located at. But we should see 2025 be stronger for the mined copper, the copper that's coming out of the ground. We should see over the next 20 years, electric vehicles and renewables, continue to be a strong driver for copper consumption. So you put some of that stuff together, and what they're saying is that near term, They're looking at copper to drop below $4 a pound. And you can see right here, let's see, $4 a pound. It's a little bit below where it is right now. See, right now it's at 4,005. So let's just leave that number there. So what they're saying is that near-term copper could drop below that $4 a pound and then start to come back up again later on. But there's still a lot of political and social unrest in the countries where a lot of the copper mines are located. So that could shut those mines down pretty quickly. But there is the forecast for continued increasing demand of copper. So we should see, in the long term, copper still a good place to be. Now, I found another place called Techopedia, and they provided some other really cool information because they consolidated a bunch of information from different sources. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on all of the different sources that they brought together, but if you go look at Techopedia, they've got some really interesting numbers. For them, their copper forecast in 2025. So next year, they're looking at copper to be anywhere from 430 to 445 a pound. And they are, just like with Bloomberg, they're suggesting that there might be some weakening. So they're saying that they'll start the year around 445 a pound, weaken down to 430 a pound, but they don't think it's going to go below $4 a pound. Those are still pretty good numbers for us, right? We're still pretty happy with those numbers. If we look out a little further, and now when they start going out into these outer years, they go to dollars per ton, right? So right now we're looking at, 8,000 a ton. In 26, they're saying that it could be between 7,500 and 8,900 a ton. In 2027, it could be between 7,500 and 9,000 a ton. So, kind of hanging out in that area. In 28, it goes up to say 9,100, 9,200 a ton. In 29 continues to go up 9,200 a ton. So while the specific number itself is not critically important for us, recognizing that the trend is for it to sort of flatten out a little bit in 2025 and then start moving up again as time progresses. What does that mean for all of us in this small scale scrapping kind of world? Well, I continue to believe that the strategy that makes a lot of sense is you keep a strategic reserve, so 10% of your copper, and you decide, once a week, once a month, whatever that is, you look at how much copper you're going to sell, you take 10% of it and you put it aside, and then you sell the rest. And that way you're building up a strategic reserve of copper that will take advantage of these long-term trend increases in copper. Now, do you have room to do that? That's a big issue. Most people just don't have the room to store up a lot of copper. The good news is copper doesn't take up a whole lot of space if you beat it down a little bit and stuff. So, you can put aside a pretty decent amount of copper and doesn't have to take up a whole lot of space. So my recommendation, what I'm going to be doing here as I get back up and operating, is I'm going back to my usual modus operandi, keeping 10% aside for strategic reserve, selling off the rest so that I maintain my cash flow. All right. So I'd like to see real quick in these last few minutes, what are your plans for your copper? Let's see, copper. Anybody making comments on copper? I think there was some comments going on about a t-shirt here, a butterfly shirt. Oh, I'll never catch up to what's going on with the butterfly shirt discussion. So let's see, boats. You asked about silver. We'll talk about silver maybe next week. Sound like a plan? We'll do silver next week. And let's see, somebody has a butterfly shirt for, so Roger says, didn't know if you saw my comment, trying to get you that butterfly shirt. Okay, so there's a butterfly shirt coming for Everyday Solars. Grandpa Kevin has joined us right near the end. So how you doing, Grandpa? Great to see you here. And this is a perfect excuse, Grandpa. I hope you will join us as we head across the pond to go visit our friend Scrapping Irish. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to set up the automatic redirect yet, so I apologize, but you are going to have to go to YouTube and go directly to our friend Scrapping Irish over in Ireland. If you didn't get the notice, just go to YouTube, and I'm sure that you'll see it pop up there. Normally I have the redirect set up, but for some reason I wasn't able to get that set up today. So sorry about that. We'll work on that one in the future. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing everybody over in Ireland. Have a great, awesome week. Be safe, and we'll see you across the pond.